Hello, and welcome to the Psychology of Better Call Saul. This is my first video of the first half of Season 6. I hope you all enjoy this new format where I'll be doing more of a podcast style as opposed to a scripted version of these videos. So I think the thing I want to talk about in regards to the character of Howard Hamlin in Season 6 is this idea of the real self versus the pseudo self. And another way we can think of the pseudo self is as the persona. And so this is something that we've talked about with Jimmy for sure, and the way that his persona has dominated. And I think that's what we're kind of getting here with Howard in this season is we're being shown who the real Howard is and who essentially a real self or a real person is. And one of the ways you can think about what that means is someone who is spontaneous, someone who's genuine, someone who displays true emotions, is working towards growth, working towards development, and bettering one's own life. The true self can be seen as something that's always striving forward and not something that's shrinking back. And the true self is always related to others in a positive and interrelated way, whereas the false self is kind of all the opposites of what I was just mentioning. It's maybe more rigid, more disconnected, it would be more guarded, it would be displaying emotions that are maybe more defensive or aren't as true to who that person is. And that person is probably shrinking back from life. So Howard's a character that for much of the show, it's someone who's been hiding behind his occupation and the person that other people expect him to be. And so we see this with the way that he's often trying to maintain his father's legacy and building up the law firm and really putting on a show for others. You can see this with the way that he dresses and his overall appearance and kind of the way that he presents himself to others. And this seems like it's often a detriment to Howard himself. If you remember back, I think it's in either season 2 or season 3, there's a conversation he has with Kim when Kim's dealing with her own difficulties, and I think she's planning on leaving. And it sounds like Howard has considered another life or wanted to do something similar. And you can tell that being that false sense of self, being that pseudo self, it kind of wears on him and other people after a while. And that's not what we're seeing in season 6. We're seeing a very different Howard in season 6. So in episode 5, this is the episode where Howard challenges Jimmy to the boxing match. And I think this is when we're really starting to see Howard at some of his best. He just seems like he's so in tune with reality and what's actually going on in this universe. I mean, he shows how he's this person who's unafraid of dealing with difficult conversations, difficult emotions. He just really wants to figure things out. He's not afraid to piss people off because he just really cares about getting to the truth. And it's like he's not really hiding behind that mask anymore. You see Jimmy the whole time being that persona, acting like there's nothing going on, denying everything and just completely flat out lying the whole time. And Howard that's not what he's doing. He's being who he is, and who he is somebody who wants to know why this is happening and why Jimmy has something against him, and he's just trying to get to the bottom of it. It's like Howard is a perfect contrast for the character of not only Jimmy but also Kim in this season. Those are two people who are now just constantly ignoring their reality and the reality of the world around them, and they're in this bubble and nobody can get them out of it. And it creates such a great friction between the characters because Howard just wants to know the truth. He wants to know reality. He wants to live in reality. And Jimmy and Kim are as far away from that as is possible. And it's hard for them to reconcile it. And Howard is kind of poking at that for them, and they really don't like that. Then in episode 6, we see more of Howard and what's really going on with this guy. And this is the first time we see his inside of his house. It's the first time we see his, I think it's supposed to be his wife. And we see somebody he's just trying to communicate. He wants to know this person better. He wants to fix things. He wants to be in whatever relationship they were when they were younger. And he keeps putting himself out there to others, like his wife, but she's so cold and distant. And it's such a sad scene when he gives, he's giving that cappuccino and with the peace sign, and she doesn't even look at it. And it's just like her face and how she reacts to everything, and just pours the coffee and the cappuccino into the mug. And Howard has this look on his face like, is there something I'm not seeing here? What is going on? The fact that Howard is constantly trying to face reality and the actual situation that's going on, it just makes me think about how the writers of Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul stress the importance of therapy. It's so obvious that the writers believe in the power of therapy and what it does for people. And this, you'll see this with Jesse's attempts at self-acceptance, which is a video I did some work on as well, and how he had to go into rehab and he had to go into therapy groups to try to work out a lot of his issues. Also in Better Call Saul, Jimmy and Mike are two examples of people who refuse or deny therapy, and we see how that affects their ability to resolve their past pain and to live satisfying lives. Howard is really one of the only characters in this series who's been able to work through all of his grief and to work through all of his past issues, and he develops a close relationship with the therapist. And it seems like the writers are just indicating how important this is for him, and maybe that is the reason why he's so grounded to reality and why he's on a different level than a lot of the other characters in the show. And then finally in episode 7, which is the episode where Howard departs from the show, we're just seeing more of him being that true self. It seems like he's learned to just be the person who he truly is with others, regardless of how they feel about it. And that's a great example of how the true self operates. It doesn't matter how other people react to it. You would like other people to like you and to be caring towards you and to have relationships with others, but you're not going to sacrifice your true self because other people don't like it. And Jimmy and Kim obviously don't like Howard and his true self, but he's being that person anyways. And in this scene, when Howard approaches Jimmy and Kim at the apartment, we see how they're playing in those persona roles so hard. And when Howard tells Jimmy that he won, Jimmy has this like totally confused look on his face and is like, what did I win? And it's so hilarious to watch because he keeps putting on this show and it just continues to be this act, and Howard is not doing it anymore. And Howard responds by saying, I get it, you both have to play it this way, you're both so very good at it. And he's seeing through them. He sees everything that's going on. And I'm sure that the alcohol helps. Obviously, the alcohol is something that does bring out the true self in people without them even wanting it to. Howard was already doing this regardless of drinking, but it's like the alcohol put him over the edge where the things he was saying were cutting so close, and you can see how it was really bothering Kim the whole time. Howard here has just become this a vulnerable and exposed person, and he's putting it all out there, and he's showing how he's just a real person. He's a normal person. He's a flawed person, and he's not afraid to show it, while Jimmy and Kim are just stuck in their rigid ideas of what a person should be and are not willing to listen to him or accept what he's saying. And then near the end you get this part where he kind of becomes existential in a way, and he's asking like, what is it all about? What's life about? You can just continue to see how this is too much for them, and how they're not able to even have a conversation with him, and they just want to get him out of the door, to push him out and continue living in the bubble that they've been living in. And I just love this last line that Howard says to Jim and Kimmy before Lalo comes in, which is, "You can't hide who you are forever." It seems like this line sums up the show perfectly, and what the main theme of the show is, in that you are going to be found out eventually, and that means not only by other people, but you're going to be found out by yourself, and you can't hide from who you truly are for that long before something catches up with you. And that might be external factors, it might be internal factors where you just can't take it anymore and you kind of implode on yourself. But this is what is happening with Jimmy, not only in season 6, but especially in those future scenes when he's in Nebraska. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what's happening there. But it's happening, and he's going to be found out, and he's finding out who he really is at that point. And Howard just puts it so perfectly, and I think that's a great way for him to exit the show. Obviously sad to see him go, but for a person like him to, if he's gonna be killed off, you want a character to be who they are and be satisfied with how they're living life, and that seems like what Howard was doing there. So that's it for this episode of Psychology of Better Call Saul. Stay tuned for several other videos regarding the first half of season 6, including videos on Lalo, Gus, Jamie, Kim, Mike. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching.